Wednesday is shaping up to be the final chapter of one of the most relentless severe weather outbreaks this spring, and then the whole pattern flips. Today, the Storm Prediction Center has marginal risk corridors stretching from South Texas through the coastal southeast and separately across the mid-Atlantic. A few tornadoes are on the table this afternoon and evening. The hail threat is real, and isolated damaging winds are possible. But here is the bigger story. After this system clears out, a significant cooldown and pattern reset are coming. And then, as we get into next week, the jet stream reloads and another significant severe weather episode may be lining up. So let's get right into it. Before we talk today's threat, I have to acknowledge what has been an extraordinary stretch of weather across this country. Over the past week, this has been one of the most violent multi-day outbreaks in recent memory. A rare tornado emergency was declared in Enid, Oklahoma, after an EF4 tornado with winds estimated between 170 and 175 miles per hour tore through that city. That was the strongest tornado in the United States since June of 2025. Deadly EF2 tornadoes struck North Texas, claiming lives near Runaway Bay. An observed tornado tore through Mineral Wells on April 28th. Giant hail between 2 and 4 inches was reported across the southern plains. Widespread wind damage stretched from Missouri and Arkansas all the way into Indiana. Hundreds of thousands lost power. This outbreak has touched millions of lives, and the impacts are still being tallied. And today, the outbreak is not over just yet. The Storm Prediction Center has a marginal severe weather risk in place. And while that sounds modest, given what we have been through, I do not want you to sleep on it if you are in the highlighted zones. The primary risk corridors today run from South Texas through the Gulf Coast, and then separately up toward the mid-Atlantic, including parts of Virginia and Maryland. Let me break down both of those threats. Starting in Texas and along the Gulf Coast, the Storm Prediction Center is flagging scattered storm development this afternoon, particularly south of Dallas-Fort Worth, down toward Austin and San Antonio. There is still plenty of residual instability in the warm sector, and the cold front pushing south is going to provide the lift needed to fire some cells. If a supercell gets organized this afternoon, I am not ruling out a strong tornado. The hail threat is also real today, and given the steep mid-level lapse rates fueling this whole outbreak, baseball-sized hail or larger cannot be completely ruled out west of Austin and towards San Antonio. The main severe weather window across South Texas and the Hill Country looks to be roughly from 1 in the afternoon through about 6 in the evening. By tonight, storms will be congealing into a cluster across Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, with the primary threat transitioning to damaging wind gusts in the 50 to 60 miles per hour range. A brief spin-up tornado in that clustering storm mode is possible but would be lower probability. The coastal Gulf region, including Houston and coastal Louisiana, needs to stay weather aware through the overnight hours as that line pushes through. Now let me talk about the mid-Atlantic threat, because I think this is the sneaky risk area of the day. A separate disturbance is pushing through the region, and there is enough wind shear and instability in place from the Virginia coast back into the D.C. area and into Maryland to support a couple of brief, weak tornadoes this afternoon and into the early evening. I think the peak window for this area runs from about 3 in the afternoon through 8 at night. If you live in the Virginia Beach area, Richmond, or the D.C. suburbs and into Maryland, stay weather aware today. Wind gusts to 50 miles per hour and a brief tornado or two are the hazards most worth watching in that region. Now let me walk you through the bigger picture, because after Wednesday, the weather pattern is going through a significant transition. The massive upper-level trough that has been driving this multi-day outbreak is going to lift out to the northeast, and in its wake, a sprawling ridge of high pressure builds into much of the central and eastern United States. That means cooler, calmer air filters in heading into Thursday and through the weekend. Temperatures across the Great Plains and Ohio Valley are going to feel very comfortable as we approach May. The northern plains and upper Midwest should keep an eye out for overnight temperatures dropping to near freezing this weekend. Not a dangerous situation, but gardeners with early plantings need to be aware. May is starting off on a much quieter note after this historic stretch. Thursday, looks to have the lowest severe weather risk of the past week and a half. There may be a small marginal zone clipping parts of central Texas with isolated large hailstorms in the afternoon, but I think coverage and intensity will be well below anything we have seen recently. The atmosphere needs time to recover, and Thursday is that recovery day for most of the country. Friday brings a new storm system into play, but here is the catch. The low pressure is going to track in a very suppressed pattern, staying close to the Gulf Coast. That keeps the most organized severe weather risk confined to coastal Texas and Louisiana, with some damaging wind potential pushing toward Mississippi and Alabama. If you are in Houston, Beaumont, Lake Charles, or New Orleans, you will want to pay attention to a line of storms Friday afternoon and into the evening. The severe weather risk remains low to marginal, but damaging winds and an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out along that coastal corridor. Into Friday night, the threat pushes east toward the Florida Panhandle and possibly the Carolinas by Saturday. Saturday and Sunday are shaping up to be the respite that so many people across the central and eastern United States have been craving. A broad area of high pressure settles in. Temperatures drop to below average and comfortable levels, skies clear out, and severe weather potential drops to near zero for most of the country. Enjoy it. After the week we have had, a quiet weekend is welcome news. Monday gets a little more interesting. A compact disturbance dropping out of Canada is going to try to generate elevated storm potential from parts of Pennsylvania back toward Arkansas. I think Monday's risk stays isolated and low level. We are not looking at anything close to what we have seen this week. Damaging winds and hail are the main hazards to watch, with a low-end tornado risk possible if storms can stay discreet long enough. The time frame that has my attention for the next significant severe weather threat is Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. Medium-range model guidance has been consistent in showing a powerful system ejecting out of the Rocky Mountains and interacting with the rebounding warm sector across the southern and central plains. If this plays out as advertised, we could be looking at an enhanced severe weather event from parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley down into Louisiana, with the risk potentially expanding toward Michigan and the Great Lakes by the end of next week. The jet stream is going to reload, and with a warm sector that will have had several days to recover from this week's battle, the ingredients for significant severe weather will be in place again. Now, let me take a minute to talk about what has been driving all of this. What we have been watching is a persistent, deep, upper-level trough parked over the western and central United States, acting like a conveyor belt pulling rich Gulf moisture northward. The Weather Prediction Center noted that precipitable water values across parts of Texas have exceeded 2 inches this week, which is above the 99th percentile for late April. The source of this moisture anomaly is a powerful subtropical jet stream extending back into the tropical Central Pacific, which essentially created a superhighway for warm, wet air to surge into the threat zone. When you combine that moisture loading with convective available potential energy values exceeding 3,000 joules per kilogram across the warm sector and deep layer wind shear capable of organizing supercells, you get the environment that produces EF4 tornadoes and 4-inch hail. The pattern change happens because the trough finally lifts out and high pressure fills the gap. When the next trough arrives next week, the pipeline reopens. A quick word on flash flooding, because this is not just a severe wind and tornado story. The Weather Prediction Center has highlighted a corridor from central and southeast Texas through the central Gulf Coast for flash flooding risk this week. With precipitable water values that high, combined with slow-moving storm clusters, locally heavy rainfall can produce significant runoff in a short period of time. If you are in flood-prone areas of the Texas coast, Louisiana, or coastal Mississippi, keep that in mind today and again into Friday. Here is the bottom line as we close out. Today is your last active severe weather day in the near term, but take it seriously if you are in South Texas or the Mid-Atlantic. The window closes after Wednesday and a calmer stretch runs through the weekend. But as we move into next week toward Tuesday and Wednesday, this pattern is setting up for another significant severe weather event. This spring has already been extraordinary, and it does not appear to be slowing down anytime soon. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive weather warnings in your area. Stay weather aware, stay safe, and hit that subscribe button so you are ready for the next update when this situation evolves. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video.